Hey Tracy's Place fam, welcome back for another video. As you see, we're doing a sit down video today, something a little different. And I just wanted to talk about something that all of us, for the most part, will experience. As most of you all know, my husband lost his mom, and it was a month ago today. As this video was airing, it was a month ago today. And she was the last of our four parents to pass away. And we are once again navigating losing a parent in this household for the fourth and final time. So I saw it fitting to do a video about losing a parent or when all of your parents are gone. So many people are dreading that day, of course, and of course, depending on what age you are, the older you get, sometimes the more sometime or another, soon or not so far in the future, you may lose a parent. And I'm well aware of the fact that there's more than one, there's many family dynamics, and I cannot tell a one size fits all story because the story will not fit everyone. So I'm just going to tell my experience. When you lose a parent, it's like losing a good parent. And I know many people have different experiences with their parents, and I can't apologize for them, but prayerfully, you've had a good parent, and if not, I'll speak to that, a little later. But when you lose a parent, um, so there is a house, a family, or the structure resembles a house, and there's a foundation, and then there are walls. So when you lose a parent, the things that they taught you, the things that they directed you in, and the love that they gave you, how they loved you, that's the foundation. But they are the walls. They are the walls that hold everything in or try to keep things out, to try to protect their family and preserve their family and how they're trying to lead and guide their family. So that family structure is solid. And when those walls fall, when the parents pass, when those walls fall, the foundation is still left uncracked unless you allow it to crack. But everything that they taught you, everything, how they loved you, the love they gave you, and the love you exchanged, it's still there. That will never leave. That will never die. So if you can hold on to the things that they taught you, if it was good, of course, hold on to it so you can keep that foundation solid. Let's see. How does it feel? For me, well, my father, and I'll just tell you about, all of our parents. My husband's father passed in 2002. So it has been 24 years. He passed away in February, which now is February. So it's been 24 years. My father passed in 2004. So it has been 22 years. And my mother passed in 2020. And then my husband's mother just recently passed, like I said, a month ago. So when my father passed away, it was the first of my, and I can't speak totally on my husband's, relationship. So I'll speak on mine and I'll give a little bit on his. But it's very new to him, of course, with his mom. But my father passed. It's been a long time, but to me, sometimes it seems like a long time. Uh, and then sometimes it seems like yesterday. And when my father passed, he was he was a he was a good father. He was a very good father. I know everybody likes to brag on whether it's their children or their parents, spouse, whatever the case may be, but I had a great father. And he was good to all of us. He was an exceptional father to all of us. He was an exceptional girl's dad as well. And we just had the best. So our husbands had some shoes to fill. So, and I'm sure we had shoes to fill in the eyes of their mothers. But of course, your spouses is different, but still, you when your father loves you a certain way, you as a girl or a young woman is expecting that, or well, you can't get more, because it's, like I said, it's two different things. But he sets a pattern. The father sets a pattern of expectancy from a young woman. So when my father passed, and my father was very vocal, he was not a silent father. He spoke. He didn't hold his feelings in. If he was sad about something, upset about something, he was sad, he'd cry. I cannot say that I never saw my father cry. My father would cry, and I'm glad that he would, because my father he showed his emotion. Whether he was telling you something, teaching you something, or whatever, he was upset or he was angry, it came out. So I can never say that I wish I knew this about my father or whatever. Of course, there's things I don't know about him when he was young or whatever. But as of when he was raising me and when he was older, and the things that he learned and what he grew into, I knew that, because he taught me things, whether it's things he did wrong or experienced that he wanted so much good for us. And that was my thing, even for my children. So my father and my mother wanted better for us, which most parents do. And that shone so bright in him. And what I could say, that I was loved. I never had a question about it. I knew I was. So I'm thankful to God for that. Different people grow up with different experiences and things. I'm thankful that I had that. There's things that I didn't have. Like, we were not rich. There are some kids that grew up and they had a lot of money. They went on vacation. Well, we went on vacation, but we didn't I didn't grow up with name brand things. And, my family was not well to do and all those things, which was fine as I grew up and got older, because I knew that the things that I needed, that I absolutely needed, they had and they gave to me, which was more than money. So, but anyway, when my father passed, because he was such a big personality, Lord help me, I did not expect to, but he had such a big personality. He was such a big presence. Even though I had a great relationship with my mother at the time and after, I felt like an orphan when my father passed. And I would tell my husband, I said, I feel like an orphan. I feel so alone. And that was from the love of a father. Not his love, because I had his love even when he passed. But when your parent passes, those are people that, yeah, you in your head, it's coming someday, sometime. But like my, I'll say that later. But you don't expect it. You're not like, it's almost always unexpected. Even when they're sick, it's like that shoe dropping, and it's something that you knew it was going to happen all your life, and then it finally happens. That. And so when he passed, I felt like an orphan. He was my greatest cheerleader. My mother was too, but my mother was not vocal as my father was. She had a quiet love. I won't say quiet, because she spoke her thoughts and her mind and all of that. But they were just different. They were just different. Equal love, but different. They were just different. And so I would call them. I'd gotten, grown and everything. And, I had 3 children in the house by that time. We were, busy and doing this and that. And when he passed, by that time, I would say, I can't remember when I started, but I called them every night. This started before my father passed, but I would call them every night. And the joy, like I said, my mother and my father were different. My mother was, always happy and everything, but my father just his whatever he was feeling just came out uh, exuberantly, I guess if you want to say, just. And he would be so excited when I called every night. He'd be like, "Hey, girl, like, what did you do today? This when I'm grown and had, had kids and stuff." And I might say, "We went out to eat, this, that, and the other." And he'd be like, "What you have? What you eat?" Because me and him love to eat. That was my eating partner. And what you have? What we talk about that, and we talk about. So I know a lot of you probably don't even like this person. Some of you may be young and don't even remember this person, but there's nightly shows, of course, and they're still going on unless you know who cancels all of them out. But there was a comedian that had a nightly show, David Letterman. And he had a dry sense of humor, but he was funny. It was the stuff it was funny. And anyway, my parents loved him. My father thought he was hilarious. And after a while, I did too. I watched him, and I kind of saw what he saw, my father saw, and and we talk about that, what he had said that night, because I usually call them at like 11:30. They stayed up late too, and I do too, unfortunately. So I call them, before I went to sleep, and we talk about this, talk about that, and get off the phone. And this was just a nightly thing. So he passes, and it's like things that you have done and with them, seeing them at a certain time or talking to them at a certain time, being with them, doing family things, expecting to hear their voice. Um, it's a silence that is louder than anything. And it took a lot to get used to that. And so it's definitely for my mother. Definitely for my mother. But anyway, like I said, he was an awesome father. And there is not too many, there's little things that you say, "Oh, I wish I could ask him this and ask him that." But the way they raised us, I didn't have a lot. So when things came up that I would have asked Daddy about, um, or whatever, I knew the answer. I knew what he would think, what he would tell me. I wasn't too big to call Daddy and tell Daddy something, and he'd be like, "Honey, it's gonna be all right," and he would say, and I still say it to this day. He would say, "These things happen," meaning life is gonna happen. And he would just kind of talk me through things, and he'd be like, "You gonna be all right. Everything is gonna be all right." And so that was a huge loss. It's just like a presence that's just, and it can't be filled by anyone. And so my mother, when she passed in 2020, so she lived 16 years past my father. And so we tried to be around her more, of course, help keep her company and stuff like that. Of course, we could not fill his shoes with her. She said he was a wonderful husband. She did not remarry. She didn't want to remarry because she said once you had the best, you didn't want to. So she didn't get remarried. And she was, let's see, she was 70 when he passed. Not that some people do get remarried at that age, but she wasn't itching to get your. I didn't have the bet. She said, she was fine. Other than she missed him. Oh my goodness, she missed him. She left he had a pair of shoes still on the back steps when my mother passed. On the back porch coming up to the back door, she left his shoes there, and I think it was from that day. I think one of them or they got torn or kind of disintegrated a little bit, and she replaced them. I believe I got the story correct. She replaced them with another pair of his old gym shoes. So anyway, when she passed in 2020, when my father passed, it was a surprise. It was a shock. He had kidney issues, and they were fairly new, but then he passed, and we were not expecting it. He passed in his sleep. What we think was, a heart attack from just stress on the body or whatever. He was doing dialysis and stuff. he did not want to live like that. So anyway, fast forward my mother passing. She had been sick, like in May of 2020, and then in July, it kept, well, yeah, early July, late June, early July, it kept getting, a little bit worse. So we went to the doctor, and they prescribed. They didn't see anything, I guess, evidently wrong. That was just like, she got to go to the hospital right now. At the time, she was 86, had been doing well, getting around well, and everything was starting to get a little, forgetful and stuff like that. And so she, they gave her some vitamins to take, and whatever. She was having issues with her digestion and stuff. So gave her some vitamins and suggested she do this and that and whatever. And she had a little pooch, and then so we took her home, and she still wasn't keeping nothing down good, and wasn't, I couldn't eat. And so then we were going to take her back to the doctor. And that's when we were the day we were going to take her back to the doctor. I was going with her, and I'm excited, thinking, oh, we're gonna finally find out, what's wrong, because at this point, they're gonna take her to see what's wrong, like do x-rays and blah blah blah. And so my mother, all along though, that month of like June or July, she was not trying to go to the doctor. And this was COVID time too. So she was nervous about it. We wanted to get her more help because we didn't see, her getting like better. So we was wanting to take, she didn't want to go to the doctor. This was, COVID started. We had to shut down in March, I believe it was. Anyway, she didn't want to go because she didn't want to get caught in there, and we couldn't see her, couldn't come in and see her. And she would have been nervous, of course, being there with doctors, and we couldn't be there and all that stuff. So she was not trying to go to the hospital. The night before she passed, and I didn't mean to even tell all of this, but the night before she passed, we were over to her house, and we were talking, and this, that, and the other, and I'm like, I'll see you in the morning, and she was like, yeah, and she just started talking, just saying little things. She said, I just want to thank y'all for being such good kids. She said, you all have been, some wonderful kids to me, and to her, us, I think she said to us, meaning her and her father, but definitely, especially helping her and trying to see after her after my father passed. She said, y'all been good kids. And, just on and on. I'm like, yeah, like, thanks. Oh, it made me feel good, but I'm just like, okay, thank you. And I'm thinking, okay, we're going to see you in the morning. That's what I told her, see you in the morning. I'll be here to, pick you up and everything. And she stood watching us walk away. She was at the back door, and she stood, as we drove away, and then she locked up and everything. And so then the next morning I went over, or rather before that, me and my sister tried to call. She wasn't answering. I'm just thinking she in the bathroom. That's what my sister thinking too. That's what we're hoping. And, that it didn't turn out that way. So that was not a good day. I was by myself when I went over, and yeah, she was gone. She was gone. So, losing my mother was different than losing my father. And it will be like that for the most part for everyone, because, different things happen. My father's was a surprise. Hers was a surprise too, but we kind of felt it a little bit coming on more so than my father, because, she was getting forgetful and stuff. And, she was sick and had just a couple other issues, but nothing bad. And so we had just kind of like, oh, it might be about that. We don't know. But she was still good. She was still good. But, those thoughts just start coming in your mind. So, she was still living by herself and everything. But she was getting to the point where me and my sister was like, she's going to need to come stay with you, or, or me, or we got to figure out something or whatever, because we didn't think she could continue living by herself too much longer. My mother was independent though. She would not have wanted to come to our house, not because she didn't love us and nothing like that or get along with us. It was because she had been used to being so independent. Ooh, we would have had to fought with that, getting her to one of our houses. And probably some people was thinking, why didn't y'all have her go? You can't make people do certain things. And I've heard, and I know, like one of my grandparents, her children had to go get her and physically take her to Cleveland to live with them. They had to put her in the car and take her. But we might have would have gotten to that point with Mama, but we thank God it did not get to that point. There was a blessing in that they both went the same way and we didn't struggle and have to see them in the hospital. No, during COVID time, that would have been awful, y'all, because you couldn't get visitors and that would have been horrible. But my father passed in his sleep and my mother passed in hers. It was almost like that's kind of how she wanted it. It seemed like, because she was like, she wasn't going to no hospital. And it was almost like the vibe coming off of her was like either the Lord's going to heal me or he going to come get me and take me home. And that is what ended up happening. So we were thankful with both of them. We didn't have to see them struggle in the hospital and go through a lot and see them suffer, and all that stuff. So we were thankful for that. My husband's father did, struggle some towards the end. And he was in a nursing home. And my father-in-law was busy. He worked and he was a pastor and, different things. And I know I could tell you one thing. My husband wishes that he was more present, but he had 10 children. And so he had to take care of them. And my mother-in-law, she worked or whatever. She kept children and she worked, I think, at a nursing home as well. Yeah, she did at a nursing home. But she was mostly with the kids all the time, of course. And I think it was nursing home later on. I'm not sure, but anyway, he played sports and he wished his dad was there at his games and just different things like that. And that's one thing that my husband, you take good things and you take bad things or whatever and you kind of change them in your life. And although his father was doing a good thing, of course, in taking care of them, I think he worked like 2 or 3 jobs at one time. I think 3. And even though he, did all of that, he was taking care of them. And my husband he had felt such a loss and being sad about that he was even the more of a present dad. He would go to, he was like at all of their everything, whether he got off to go to most of their school stuff, even if it was in the day, he would take off and he would go back. He was there at all their games, and my kids were into sports, and he wanted them in sports. So I wasn't a sports enthusiast necessarily, but my husband wanted them, and it helped with their competitiveness and all that good stuff later on. But anywho, so that caused him, that the whatever he didn't get through his father being, more present. Like I said, he was taking care of his family. So, whatever he didn't get that he needed, he made sure to give it to his children by being even extra present. So, and how did it feel when my mother passed? It was a shock when it happened. But at the same way with my father, there was nothing that I don't think I still needed to ask her as far as, maybe little things. Oh, I wonder what she thought about this one. But I mean, those deep things of things that she taught me, like values, morals, and what she would do in big life situations or whatever, I didn't grapple with because I believe we got it all when they were alive. Like I said, my mother she was more on the quiet side, her presence wasn't loud like my father's, but she still was a presence. It was just a more quiet but pronounced present. She was something else. If I could feel half of her shoes, oh my goodness. She was always the one that worked quietly behind the scenes. So that's the best way I can explain it. My father was the funny one, laugh when he'd always expressed everything and, what have you. And she was more the one, she'd be in the kitchen, cooking and doing this and making her hats. And she was present. She was there for everything with us and, all of that. But she was a quiet strength. That's saying that she was a quiet strength. And so we definitely missed that. But because she was, we thought, about to start suffering, it was easier to accept her passing because all we envisioned was hospital and, she may not make it, all these things. And so we were thankful that she went peacefully. She went peacefully. She was laying just like she just went to sleep. And my father too. They just went to sleep and really went to sleep eternally. So that was a beautiful thing. Okay, so I have some suggestions on what to do. If you are not at that point yet, but these are some things to do prayerfully to help you not have regret after they're gone. If you are estranged from your parent or not talking to your parent or have a bad relationship with your parent, seek to reconcile, to be civil at least, because when you don't have a normal parent-child relationship, you still want some good feeling or a settlement or something when that parent leaves. You want some final words or final feelings or something when that parent leaves, because at some point they will. And you don't want just, a lot of regret. The second thing that I would suggest is to tape your parent. A good friend of my husband suggested this to him. He said, tape your conversations with your mother, even like video them or whatever. So he started doing that, and we both did it with both of our moms. Our kids interviewed them about them growing up in the South and their life and just, things of that. So my kids, they had questions and we videoed both my mother and I don't know if my husband video, I can't remember. I've seen it or heard it, but it's been a long time. It's been a while. It's been like a good 7 or 8 years since. So I can't remember and I haven't watched it lately. I'm sure my husband has though. I can't remember if he videoed or just audibly taped his mom the interview with our kids. So it's Jayla and Isaiah. They interviewed her. And then I videoed my mother while Jayla and Isaiah interviewed my mother. So just to look back and to watch her talk about growing up and the things they did, that she was truly one of those that, and her siblings, they both came from big families. All of them came from pretty decent sized families. How they would chop cotton, pick cotton rather, and do their chores before school, and they had to walk miles to school and just different stuff like that. They really did. And so just stories like that is a treasure to have after they are gone. It was too late or too early. We didn't have the advice back when our fathers passed. So we didn't take them. But I don't know if my father-in-law, I don't know if anyone has him on video or not, but we have video of my father, doing different things, because by that time, we had a video recorder and stuff like that. So we have video of him and are so happy to have that. But we did not get a chance to interview and just talk to, both of our fathers and on tape and get their take on their childhood up until now and the things that they went through. We didn't get a chance to do that. But we already knew most of it, if not all of it, from just listening to them all while we grew up. The third thing I would suggest is spend time with your parents. It's not always convenient, especially when you get older and your children come and stuff like that. But you never know when your parent is going to leave here. So at any age and any time, spend a lot of time with your parents as much as you can. Glean from them, listen to the stuff that they say, because it does help you when you get older. You think at a certain age, your early 20, late teenagers, early 20s, that, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. And both of my older kids do know that, yes, mom and daddy did know. And like I know too, yes, mom and daddy did know. It's stuff I'm finding out now that, yes, what mom and daddy said was true. And so it will help if you spend time with them and listen to them and actually carry forth the things that they have taught you. Don't distance yourself from your parents because you're scared that if you get too close to them, when you're going to leave and you're going to be devastated and all that, that's going to happen. Whether you didn't spend a lot of time with them or you did. If you didn't spend time with them, you'll have regrets. And that's the worst thing to live with, is regret. I've heard people say, they kind of withdraw or whatever because they're scared that when they leave, they don't want that super close attachment because it'll hurt so bad. No, you do a disservice to yourself and you do a disservice to your parent, because they were there for you for everything. Gave you what you needed, gave you things that you didn't even think didn't know you needed at the time. So when you don't reciprocate to someone who has done so much for you, I just think God is so displeased. He says to honor your mother and your father. You can do that in many ways, yes, but you want your parent, that's as much as you're thankful about the way your parents loved you, they're excited and happy that their children love them. And I tell you, my father, if we got him the littlest thing, oh my goodness, he was just floored. And I'm like, why is it, after we got older and we could buy a few things, we never was well to do, but he was just so outdone. Y'all got this for me, and it wasn't even nothing super big. But that was one thing that I sought to do that I didn't get a chance to do. And that's something, it's just a personal regret of mine, but it wasn't a regret of theirs. I wanted to spoil them because of their sacrifices and their love towards me and all that stuff. I wanted to get rich and spoil them. And that just did not happen. And I told my mother about it. I didn't get a chance to tell my father, but I told my mother, I said, Mama, I really wanted to do more for y'all. But they were fine financially and stuff as they got older and we were gone and stuff. They were fine financially and stuff, but I still wanted to do more for them. And she said, y'all have been the best kids. She said, we didn't need anything. We didn't want it. That wasn't necessary. She said, what we wanted for you all, you have done. You have grown into good, responsible adults. And, spiritually, for most of us, we were, where our parents envisioned or tried to take us. And my mother was happy with that. And I know my father was. But my mother's the one I actually talked to about it. She said, oh no, getting stuff from y'all and stuff, like, basically that was not the prize. The prize is how you all turned out. And that's my, it's the same for me towards my children. You just want to teach them and for them to stand on their own 2 feet and to do well and to be spiritually sound and all those good things. So, yeah. The fourth thing is, when your parent, if they get sick or whatever, try to do as much as you can for them. If for some reason they get dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever, try to be patient with them. Dementia and Alzheimer's hits differently. And it's, try not to get angry with them. And I don't know if you've probably heard the different commercials and the different things of what happens when dementia hits a family, because it doesn't just hit that person, it hits a family. And try not to get angry with them, because they get frustrated enough or sometimes not, because they don't know that they're forgetful. So when you try to make them remember and things like that, it just agitates them and gets them angry. And then you get a little short with them because you're trying to make them. And it's not that you're angry with them. You're angry because your parent, as you knew them, they're not the same. And it's hard to see when your parents age to a certain degree when they don't function exactly the same as they did. And like I said, my father, he, I don't even know if I won't say he was just ready to leave here, but basically kind of, because he said, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be on a machine doing dialysis, because he did like the all night dialysis at home. And he was like, he didn't want to live. He was so active. And my mother was active too. And so they feel limited. So yeah, just try to be patient with them. She was still had good sense of good, wit about it. She was still doing things and paying her bills and stuff like that. And I think my sister kind of helped with certain things that last month and or two, it's more so, but she was still, with it and everything. And we're thankful that it didn't get worse. We're thankful that it didn't progress worse. Not that we didn't want her here or anything like that, but when you think about your parents and what you know that they don't want, you think about them even the more. And she wouldn't want it. She wouldn't want it. And the fifth thing, those things that your parents taught you and gave you, the love that they gave you, give them to your children. Don't be the kind of parent that's glad when they gone and all that stuff. And if you had parents that taught you well, like I said, keep on teaching those things to your children. And whether it's being respectful, having good morals and values, gathering with family and things of that nature, and just give them the best start that you can, and it'll take them on through adulthood, just like your parents taught you. So teach your children the same thing. If it was good, teach it to them, because if you turned out pretty good, why would you go worse? Why would you do less than what your parents gave you? I've seen so many people say, they're not gonna drag their kids to church like their parents did. And even though some people will laugh and adore those years and talk about them fondly and stuff, they then turn and not do those things for their children. If for some reason, uh, and that's sad to think, but it's my thing. Give your children Jesus. Give your children. I hate to see people when they grow up a certain way, especially in the church. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm a Christ follower, so when I see people fall away, it's sad. And then when I see those people, they had gotten a certain rearing, and then their children don't know nothing about it, that helped their parent to turn to a responsible adult. And then they spoil their children with every single thing. And they don't take them to church, and they don't, teach them to do this or to, that. And then that's how society kind of goes down when you don't teach your children. So keep teaching your children, or when you get children, or if you have children, teach them well. And those old landmarks that we grew up with and you grew up with, teach it to your children too. Help them to get to a solid foundation of Christ. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. No church is perfect. And just like, and I would just plead with you. I know, people sometimes they don't go to church anymore because they say it's the pastors or the deacons or the church people. They fake, or this and that and the other. Just as you change a job or change schools, change neighborhoods, or whatever the case may be, when it gets bad, change church. Just change to another church. Keep seeking the place until you get to it, till the Lord tells you this is the place. And remember, when you get there, that there's no perfect church, because you're there. You're there, they're there, the pastor's there. Now, we're all imperfect people, but you're all learning, and going to church, being a church, or a community of believers, it's a hospital. So sometimes you can learn things in the group of many that you could never learn on your own. I see a lot of people reading the Bible themselves, which is great. Do that. But as in the even the word tells us that you need a preacher, you need someone to dissect it down and get a more spiritual context than we can, and deliver it to us more than what we can read in text. So anyway, that's that. And yeah, that's the greatest gift I believe you can give your child, the gift of leading them to salvation. Because when we leave here, we going somewhere. We going somewhere. And why not learn the things of your creator so that when you leave here, you can go with him. All right, y'all. I think that is it. If you all have any comments or questions or anything, please put it down below. Please add to the conversation. Put in there, what was your experience? Some people haven't lost, their parent yet. Is there anything that you learned that you didn't think of or whatever? So, yeah, just put it down in the comments. Keep the conversation going nicely. So I love you all. You all be blessed, and keep praying for us as we're still navigating the loss. And my husband, is navigating the loss. It's just been a month, so keep us in your prayers. All right. I love you all. You all be blessed, and I'll see you next time right back here on Tracie's Place. Bye.